of Rage and Two Fingers, on to topic 2. Transition, boys. So this topic has been... Yeah, thank you for that. Has been one that has been in the back of my mind since Kev's been home. So, if you watch previous episodes, I finally divulged in a little show called Game of Thrones in this past year. Kate and I did a review, or my review, of the first 4 seasons, and then Kevin came in and we did the review, or I did the review of seasons 4 through 7.
Yeah.
And then season 8 was going to premiere last April, I think is when it started, or was it March?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, April or May.
So I was all caught up, ready to go. Kev obviously was on the ship, so we didn't really communicate too much, if at all, about the season and what had happened. So this topic's name, or just thing, is Kevin's Rant on Season 8. And Brett sits here and nods quietly and maybe says he likes something, but yeah.
I want you to chime in, because we don't want the anger to just
so
flow unabated.
So let's do this. I'll give my impression / mini review of what I thought, and then we can open this floodgate of hate or whatever, and then I'll just be like, yeah, you're right, or yeah, okay, whatever. But anyways, I thought the season was
right there,
okay.
Right there to our viewers. He's offering what he's gonna say. I have to approach this as a lawyer now.
Oh, okay. He's got a new profession.
To the jury, my opponent asked himself a question he couldn't even answer enthusiastically. End of case.
I didn't say I was like,
done.
This is the best season ever TV.
I mean, I'm just saying.
I know what I'm getting into.
Okay. Alright, please proceed.
It was okay.
Okay.
The reason it was okay, I thought we had some more character development, which, good. I actually preferred the longer episodes. I did enjoy that, because the other seasons just, they did a good job of making you want more.
Yeah.
I want more of the story, I want to know what's next, so I enjoyed the longer episodes. The tension going into the battle for Winterfell.
Yes.
Great. Love that. The battle itself, good. When it was happening. The end result, I'm not super pleased about.
Mm.
But I thought the fighting part was fine. It was good.
Fighting my love.
It was fine. The ending, confusing. The king that we now have, I get the logic behind it, but it doesn't seem earned at all. So Bran with an N. Sorry, I always do that.
Are you saying Pam or Pan?
Bran is chosen to be the king, which makes sense from a logic standpoint because he knows all this information of history and stuff like that. Fine. I understand that. It doesn't make sense because we never really built up to him earning this at all. He was just a kid who was going through this mythological thing, which was somewhat interesting, but then when we didn't explore it for a while because he just poof disappeared from the show, that was odd. So it was just like, I don't understand why this choice is being made. Like I said, once again, it just didn't feel earned, or to a viewer point, like, yeah, that's a choice I would have made. Like, there was a handful of other people I would have picked. Okay, not just a handful. There was many people I would have picked over him from if I was making that decision. So, I think that's it. I think that's all I got, to be honest, of like, yeah, I might dive into more specifics once you start going, but yeah, that's my overall top-down level, I guess.
I guess the real question is,
Uh-huh.
how much are you allowed to curse in this show?
Absolutely a fuck ton.
Okay. So let's dissect this piece of shit season from the get-go.
Yep.
Okay. Literally, the first scene of Game of Thrones, the first chapter of the Game of Thrones book.
Yep. What?
Involves the Rangers going beyond the wall and bumping into these White Walkers.
Yeah.
Right? The first thing is that, holy crap, who are these guys?
Right.
And clearly the Rangers, it's not like, you hear them talking about wildlings. They're clearly comfortable with wildlings. They understand, like, what they are, like, what their societal dynamics are. Like, they get that. They deal with these tools all the time. But they encounter this, and the terror and sheer panic is like, oh my god, like, what the hell are we dealing with right now? Like, this is something we only thought were children's stories, right?
Yeah.
And then they get annihilated, other than the one guy who makes it south of the wall, which I still would like to know how this one raving lunatic made it over the wall when he didn't have the climbing equipment at the wildling. Whatever. Anyway, that's a problem with an earlier season, and I don't want to get into that.
Yeah.
So the entire series, a little bit less in the beginning, more so once you get into seasons 3 and 4 and all that.
Yes.
And I guess season 2 to some extent, maybe. The White Walkers are out there, and the people that encounter them are quite clear. These guys
excuse me,
are the worst case scenario that we can deal with.
Right.
Okay. Then we get to and then you see them with like little things, like when they take Craster's baby boy to that random ass monument Stonehenge shit out in the middle of the lands of Forever Winter.
Right.
And the main dude uses some magic to turn it from a human baby into a White Walker.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool.
So, okay, they've got some cool magic. They can do some weird shit. Okay. Then we really see the magnitude of their power at the Battle of Hardhome, when Jon and the wildlings that survived Hardhome are making their way south again, and this motherfucker walks out there, looks at them like, oh, for real though? Lifts up his hands and all them dead motherfuckers come back. And you're sitting there going, oh my god, dude, like anybody that's died north of this wall is now a soldier for these clowns, right? Okay. That was an impressive buildup of the story that, wow, these guys are an impending threat. But then they're like wandering around and shit. And like, they're like, not to get biblical here, but they're like the Jews wandering in the desert for like 40 years. And you're like, where the hell are these people going? And you see them at random points, like Sam encounters them. He's hiding behind the rock, and the army marches by and leaves him alone.
Okay.
And then Bran encounters them when he gets his hand touched and screws over the three-eyed raven and all that. Right? So like, they're out there. They're a threat. Big bad dudes. Like, we're talking Nazis meet Soviets meet freaking Voldemort and shit. Right? Like, it's like all the bad people put into one, or so we think. We still have no idea anything about them. We've never heard them talk. We've never seen them play poker.
We did get one go, wah! Just scream on the distance.
Well, so.
Sorry, I love that part.
Anyway, so then, to move along with the White Walker storyline, they go north to capture a White.
Yes.
To bring back down to crazy ass Cersei to explain to her what the fuck was going on. Okay. And then they kill a dragon with a javelin throw that was fit for the Olympics. I mean, my man gets out there with an ice javelin, fires that shit off like a Tomahawk cruise missile, takes him out. And I'm sitting there going, okay, wait, how does ice kill something that literally has fire inside of it? We're not going to get into that. That's just stupid. But so, as soon as that fucking dragon sinks in the water, I'm like, okay, we can pretty much assume this dragon's going to probably come back. My man just brings shit to life. So then he brings a dragon to life. And I'm like, oh, wow.
With random chains that he somehow had, but that's...
Yeah, and I've never seen a White Walker or a, what do they call the Whites? I've never seen the Whites do any kind of smithing work, so let's talk about that real quick.
And they couldn't swim to the little island to attack, but okay, there's a lot of holes in that, but...
Yeah. So, They bring back a dragon. Now, dragons breathe fire.
Yeah.
But they bring it back from the dead, and apparently it no longer breathes fire. It breathes something, and nobody's clear if it's ice or like if it's blue flame or if it's magic farts flying out of its mouth. I mean, we have no idea. So anyway, you're like, okay, they have a dragon.
Yeah.
Okay. They got an army. So they got an army and an air force right now.
Yeah.
Alright. Whatever. So then they destroy the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And the last scene of season 7, which I thought was actually a pretty cool way to end.
Oh, that was amazing.
Was them climbing over the rubble and you being like, oh, fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But then, episode 1, and I believe episode 2.
Episode 2 is a waste of time.
Yeah. Episode 1 and 2 of season 8. This army that knocked down a wall and then quickly climbs its ass over it and is literally like a 2-week to maybe a month journey from Winterfell.
They just walk really slow, man. I mean, how long were they walking in the fucking north?
But this is what kills me about the show. They really fucked up timing.
Yeah.
Okay. Because just to dial it back for a second, Jon Snow and the boys, Dirty John and the boys go up north of the wall to get this white, right?
Yeah.
And then Gendry
books it
back to the wall.
Usain Bolt.
They get a raven to fly from the wall down to Dragonstone, which is the fucking south of the map.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're talking months of walking distance from Winterfell, let alone the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Daenerys gets her ass on her dragons and flies up there, apparently all on the same day.
Mm-hmm.
Bullshit. They don't fly faster than the speed of sound. Okay. Anyway, so let's not
just like Arya on the stupid boat.
Let's not miss the forest for the trees here. Okay, let's keep the critique going. That's just a little annoyance of mine is how the show's timing works.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so it takes these guys forever to get from the wall down to Winterfell. When Jaime Lannister gets his ass from King's Landing to Winterfell, which is like triple the distance or more, and these guys are still... I mean, can you imagine any real-time army going to invade a country and just walking, taking a nap, and being like, we'll get there when we get there?
Yeah.
Okay. So then the White Walkers get to Winterfell, and like you said, there is a tension. Mm-hmm. People are thinking, like, what if I die tonight?
Yeah.
What am I going to be? What is my legacy? All that normal human shit. I get it.
I did say episode 2 is a waste of time. It's like half and half. It's good for that part, and then there's other stuff. It's like, what the fuck?
But so then, like, they attack.
Mm-hmm.
And the living people's battle plan is the stupidest shit I've ever seen.
Oh, okay.
They made their cavalry, like, full-on attack. They did not use cavalry for, like, what it's supposed to be. Without getting too much into military shit.
Okay.
These assholes, all, like, 20,000 of the Khalasar are left?
Mm-hmm.
They just gone like a fart in the wind.
Yeah.
Alright, so...
there was one lone horse that survived that day.
Okay, so now we're down to, like, dick all for an army.
Yeah.
Alright. And then the living people that can't really fight, like Sansa and Tyrion, they decide the best place to hide from an army of the dead, that the main dude can bring dead bodies to life, is in the fucking crypt.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're surrounded by sleeper cell agents for this dude. Like, the fuck, man? Like, if I go to war with Italians, the best place to hide is not in a pizza shop. Alright? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, without, like, dragging this out anymore, the White Walkers and the Night King are, like, destroyed with, like, this huge threat that was building up for 7 seasons is erased in the first 3 episodes. And they did nothing. They accomplished nothing. I have no idea what their actual importance to the storyline was. I mean, yeah, they were used to thin out the herd of characters that they didn't know what the fuck to do with anymore, sure. But, like, the fuck, man? Like, what was the point?
Mm-hmm.
We have this army. It destroys a wall. The wildlings were scared shitless of these fucking guys for 5 seasons. That's why they attacked the wall to get out of there.
Right.
And then the White Walkers effectively become nothing. They were the storyline equivalent of Neville No, you know what? Fuck that. No, Neville Longbottom actually was slightly important to the storyline of Harry Potter. I have no idea. Okay? And then you're like, you know what, though? Jaime Lannister. He's completed this wonderful character arc. He's decided to abandon his sister who he loves, his potential unborn child,
right,
his legacy, to go fight for the living against the forces of apparent evil.
Yep.
Okay. For the second time in his life, he's done something selfless to protect other people.
Right.
Okay. Great. Knights Brienne of Tarth.
Uh-huh.
Sleeps with Brienne of Tarth.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Then decides to pull the biggest dick move ever. Leave a 20 on the nightstand.
Yeah.
And walk his ass back down to his sister, only to tell her, "Oh, you think that I ever actually cared for people and whatever?" And I'm like, "What was the point of this story arc?
Mm-hmm.
This guy was apparently this really troubled and complicated guy that was deep down a good guy, but everybody shit on him for being a good guy because they didn't know what he did, and then they turn him into an asshole again to finish the show. Stupid as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
All right, waste of a great character, one of the best written characters in books or show. Jon Snow. You're wondering for the first 6 seasons or so, who are Jon Snow's parents?
Right.
What the fuck's his deal?
Right.
Who was hot enough to get Ned Stark to break his honor code? Okay? And then you find out, oh, he's another Targaryen.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. The fuck does that mean? Oh, no. Not only is he a Targaryen, he's Rhaegar's son, which means he's technically the dude who should be king.
Right.
But of course, Jon Snow's only 2 lines in season 8 are, "I don't want it," and "You're my queen." Alright? Like, literally his only 2 lines.
Uh-huh.
Alright? Like, no matter what is being done in this show, in that season, "I don't want it. You're my queen." Like, all this stupid shit. Like, they took this guy. There's no importance to the Jon Snow character. He was fucking useless. He and Daenerys get up in dragons and shit. He flies a dragon. You're like, holy fuck, he's flying a dragon. What? Wow. Dragons and shit. Aerial combat. Fuck. And he meant nothing. His efforts at the Battle of Winterfell meant dick. The whole Azor Ahai, the prince who was promised all that shit. Go fuck yourself. It doesn't matter. Like, Jon Snow. Add him to the list of trash bin characters after Jaime Lannister. Tyrion. Tyrion just became an annoyance the last 2 seasons. Giving terrible fucking advice to Daenerys. Not understanding how much of a bitch his sister is. Like, that she's gonna turn on him and shit. Like, he became a worthless character. He was a dumbass. Like, everything before season 7, you understood Tyrion was a smart guy. He had compassion. He wanted to see the country run right. That was like when he was Hand of the King and when he became the master of coin and all that shit. He was doing his best to try and push this lard ass of a kingdom into some form of like functionality. Last 2 seasons effectively becomes a walking, more or less functioning idiot. Alright? Like, no purpose. Almost gets killed in a crypt full of dead bodies that get brought back from the dead. Whatever. Tyrion Lannister. Trash bin of history. Alright? Daenerys Stormborn goes through all of this shit, vowing never to become like her dad.
Mm-hmm.
Steps foot on Westeros, turns into her dad.
Yeah.
Daenerys Stormborn. Trash bin of characters. I mean, like, they squandered so many great storylines. And it's unforgivable. And, like, Bran is just a creepy dickhead. Like, that's all he was to me in the end of season 7 and all of season 8. Just a creepy dickhead.
Just show up and...
Oh, and then Euron Greyjoy apparently is the world's best anti-aircraft gunner from the medieval era. What the fuck?
Yep.
What are you kidding me? This, what?
He's got air and sea. He just needs the land.
God damn it, this guy's like the American sniper out there shooting dragons out of the sky.
Mm-hmm.
And then, there's this stupid shit, like, when they go in to attack King's Landing. We all know the Dothraki were all killed at the Battle of Winterfell. But then somehow they are en masse present at King's Landing, which means to me one of two things. One, the writers are really fucking stupid and forgot they killed off all the... And, like, there was actually... This is how you know this season was... Remember in high school when you have a school project and you forgot about it, it's like the night before, and you just mailed it in just so you could hand something in the next day?
Yeah.
This is how you know this entire season was the television version of that. After each show, they would do, like, Talking Thrones or whatever, where they would, like, have people talk about the episode.
Yeah.
Dan and Dave, the writers, at one point were talking about one of the characters who had done something, and when you realized that they had done that, the episode didn't make sense. And they legitimately said, well, we kind of forgot Dany... Oh, it was about Daenerys. Like, we kind of forgot Dany had ships or something, and we're like... Yeah, you forgot? Like, your job is to write... God damn it. HBO, I was just telling you this earlier, HBO came to the writers and said, you have a fuckload of stories left. There's a lot of character arcs, a lot of shit to wind up. Mm-hmm. We know George is going to finish this series with 2 more books.
Eventually.
Well, yeah, eventually. We are willing to give you 2 more seasons. Plus, for HBO, Game of Thrones is a cash cow.
Yeah.
People were buying HBO subscriptions just to watch Game of Thrones. Yep. All right? They were like, yeah, let it ride. Mm-hmm. We'll give you 2 more seasons, 10 episodes each. All the money you want, CGI out the ass. Yeah. Dire wolves all over the place and dragons and shit, right? And Dan and Dave were like, nah, we good, fam. 1 season. And HBO's like, you can do it in 1 season in 10 episodes? And Dan and Dave were like, nah, fam, 6 episodes. What? HBO must have shit a brick. Like, how are they going to fumble fuck this one? Mm-hmm. Turns out, Disney had given Dan and Dave an offer to work on the next Star Wars movie, and they were trying to speed up Game of Thrones so that they could get working on the Star Wars shit. So that movie's gonna be a giant piece of shit too, by the way. They weren't happy ruining Game of Thrones. They also had to destroy Star Wars from the bloody mess it is now into just a gravesite.
Just kick it a little bit more while it's on the ground. So that's another podcast you can watch a few episodes back when Cam was here before.
Oh. So Dan and Dave... And you know what's the funny thing? There was a certain point, I think it was season 4 of season 5, where the show exceeded where the books were. Yes. Now, George had given the guys an outline of where he saw the story going. Uh-huh. So that way, he's old. Yeah. If he dies, they could at least finish the show. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure there were frameworks written so that if he died, somebody could finish the book series as well. Mm-hmm. I was going somewhere with this. Oh,
George.
So, you see the point to where the show was still with the books, where they had material to work with. Mm-hmm. The show was actually pretty good. Yes. But I think it was 5 and 6 where they started exceeding where the books were, and now they're just operating with general ideas. Okay. And as far as I'm concerned, the show kind of started descending. Now, there was still a lot of good shit in there. Yeah. But you notice there was... Or at least I thought there was a noticeable drop in quality of writing. The acting was still great. I give full credit to the actors. Even in this piece of shit of a season, they did the best they could. Mm-hmm. They really did. But if I give you a shit sandwich and you want to eat it, you can't honestly tell me it tastes good. You know what I mean? That's what they were dealing with. As somebody that's loved this show... Since what, 2010? I think it started, maybe 2009. This was a lot of my life invested in one show and one storyline. Plus, I had read the books. Right. So, I had a real deep love for the story, the characters. I thought George did a really good job because most of these fantasy type movies, even Star Wars, it's always the good guy winning. Right. George is much more realistic. The good guy doesn't always win. Look at the Stark family. Everybody loved the Stark family compared to the Lannisters. Yeah. And who wins out initially? Mm-hmm. So it's like, I think he did a really good job of trying to illustrate that war is bullshit. That humanity does not always end up having the good guys be the victor. I thought he wrote a really realistic series, so I was very invested in it, and the characters and whatever, and you felt like you were experiencing the characters' arcs. Like, you know, you're reading chapters that are Jaime Lannister's perspective, so you're seeing shit through his eyes. You become invested in his growth.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, Dan and Dave betrayed the Game of Thrones faithful that were tuning in every Sunday night for 10 years or more. Again, I don't hate on the actors. I think they did the best they could. Like Emilia Clarke doing Daenerys, I think she did a fairly good job trying to do what Dan and Dave were asking her to do. Unfortunately, they gave her a stupid character arc at the end. Like I said, trash bin of characters. But I don't know. I was very disappointed by the show. There's a season rather. I still don't understand what the hell Jon Snow is going up to the wall to do, because there's no wildlings north of the wall that they have to protect from anymore. They are the Night's Watch now.
Yeah.
And there are no White Walkers because, again, some of the coolest villains ever developed in the history of fiction or anything just destroyed in a second by a girl jumping out of an apple tree. I mean, what the fuck? You know, fuck you, Dan and Dave.
I liked that moment, but I didn't appreciate, like, we kill one, they all go poof.
Well, and, like, okay, again, the whole...
Because I like the other guys, like his generals, I thought they looked cool. And I was like, yeah, we're going to do some... Oh, no. We're just done with them.
Well, so it kind of makes sense. So, I mean, that is one thing I'll say makes sense, because he was creating all these babies with his magic, right? So their existence is contingent upon his continued sorcery or whatever.
Maybe I just hate that stupid villain trope. That, like, you take out one and everything falls apart. Like,
yeah.
Think of it like, I mean, this example kind of works, but also kind of doesn't work. Phantom Menace, we talked about Star Wars before, but they blow up the one ship and then all the robots stop working. Like, it makes sense because that's a control ship. But, like, that's the same, like, oh, okay, well, they're pushing them over, they're done. And then also, there was another example I had, and I'm blanking on it, but I don't know. Oh, maybe Ultron, but kind of not really, because he still had a couple of the robots that were, like, going, but I don't know, it's just like, I don't like that cheap way out, I guess.
I don't know. I just decided at a certain point, I was like, man, fuck this show. I mean, not the show, the last season.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what's the thing, though? I almost can't even go back and watch the earlier seasons now, because I know that officially for the canon of that show, where it's going. Like, Jon Snow was being developed as the prince who was promised. He was resurrected from the dead, for fuck's sake.
Right.
What was the point of him being resurrected from the dead when he became a walking, talking tampon for the last season? I mean, I don't want it. She's my queen.
To kill the bigger threat of
you,
Daenerys.
man.
I don't know, man.
Because, like, he's supposed to be Azor Ahai, the guy that's supposed to destroy the darkness when the long night comes. And instead, Arya, who, as far as I could tell, wasn't that great of an assassin because she got kicked out of her organization for not being that great, comes back to Westeros and apparently became James fucking Bond.
Which, okay, like, I agree with the whole Night King, like, thing. I like that Arya got the finish because it gave fucking reason for this stupid assassin story. I hated it.
But yeah.
And then,
what the fuck else were they gonna do with her character?
I don't know. But and then Jon's thing, like, he did technically take out the big evil that would have been Daenerys, and then I don't know. He's just got nothing to do because, like, his prophecy's fulfilled. Like we were talking about Star Wars earlier. I don't know.
Yeah, but like, what the fuck was his prophecy in the end?
To kill Daenerys. She was gonna become the next big evil thing.
I think
because she was turning into her dad, like you mentioned.
Well, I think that her descent into madness was super rushed. Because up until the end of season 7, she was a queen that cared.
Yeah, end of season 7, I think they started it, but I agree. Like, a couple of those... I don't remember. No, because it started really twinging when What's-Her-Face died.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. They forced her to go from, like, being, like, a good queen trying to do the right thing. Like, my girl goes out there without having any sword skills or anything, and she's fighting the enemy at Winterfell with Jon.
Yeah.
Like, Sansa's hiding in a fucking grave site waiting to get killed by sleeper agents.
Right.
And, but Daenerys is out there, and I'm like, yeah, look, this is the real queen here. She's actually out there trying to defend shit. And then, like, in an episode, they turn her evil, and I'm like, this is super rushed. For a character that people had come to love, you know, because of what she was up against. I mean, a lot of people did. I'm not saying everybody did.
Oh, no. I thought of a funny story when you said that. Please continue.
But, it just seems like, for what they were trying to do with her character through the whole show, in order to show her turning into her dad, it needed to be much more than like a 1 or 2 episode arc. There needed to be more. Like, they just pummeled her with bad shit. Her friend gets her head cut off. Her dragon gets shot out of the sky by fucking American sniper Euron.
Yeah.
I mean, what the hell, man?
I did like how, I mean, it was a simple thing, but how, like, the costume department helped with her transition. Like, her hair got more, like, wild and crazy, and her dress, her wardrobe got, like, darker and more pale.
Yeah.
So I did appreciate that, but that's just from, like, a, I don't know, arty perspective. So my side story before Kevin, because I think he's going on a new one.
No.
So the reason oh, okay.
No, I'm done.
The reason I thought it was funny, or I thought of a funny story while you said, like, people were, you know, invested in her and stuff like that. So your boy worked a temp job where people can customize labels and put, you know, whatever the fuck they want on it, and it's the names of their kids. Well, I saw two interesting names come through. I saw Daenerys and I saw Khaleesi. And I heard it was a thing that people were naming their kids, and so I was like, oh my god, this is real. I was just like, oh no. I wonder how they feel.
You know, I gotta say though, as far as weird ass names go, the kids are being saddled with. Daenerys and Khaleesi are like, you know, I mean, like, it sounds like it could be something like quasi Middle Eastern or, you know, Mediterranean-ish, right? Like, the ones that kill me are like the names you hear kids like. I'm not saying it's a bad name, but like, it's just so clearly invented. Like, it might as well be fiction. Like, I heard, I think it was my sister was looking to name their kid Brayden.
Okay.
Like Brayden or something.
I've had Braydens in like class and stuff.
Okay, but I'm just saying I'm taking a stand. That's
I mean, that's not that out there.
It's a bullshit name.
I've seen that way more than the other ones.
That's because you have many Daenerys's yet.
No, only via sticker apparently.
Well, look, I'm just saying, like, I don't know. I thought I was gonna be angrier.
No, it's just disappointment, it seems.
No, it's not even disappointment. It's sadness. It was like 1.5 years, 2 years waiting for season 8 to come out.
Right.
And I knew that they were going to bring some of my beloved characters to their final resting place in the fictional world, whatever.
Yeah.
And I felt like we were really let down by the end product. That was my personal thought.
Yeah.
My anger, my blistering white anger as I was watching, let's say, post episode 2. Because I was willing to look for the good parts of episode 1 and 2. You know, I wasn't happy, but I was like, okay, I see there's some good stuff, and some of these actors are doing a great job.
Yeah.
And then Battle of Winterfell happens, and I'm just sitting there like, nah. Nah. So then it became progressively angrier and angrier, and then now I've just reached absolute sadness and desolation in my soul.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, I guess final question, is there any positive that you can pull from this season?
It's over.
Okay. No shout-outs for Theon at all?
Okay. Yeah. I'll give a shout-out to Theon. I think that was like one of the character arcs they did well. They let him come full circle because his redemption was not a straightforward path. He, he helped Sansa out of the Winterfell castle when she was being
captured,
forcibly raped by Ramsay Bolton and evil shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
He rescues her, then he returns to his home people, and he's trying to help them.
Yep.
Help his sister, and then they go to Daenerys to help her. But then he fucks up and leaves his sister with Euron. But, I think he got a lot of hate for that when it wasn't necessary. I mean, Euron is a very deadly warrior.
For sure. And
he had his sister at knife point. Like, realistically, what is Theon going to do other than get butchered along with his sister, potentially? So he had some stutter steps. And then he returns to Winterfell to help defend that, and then he protects Bran, who he effectively betrayed in season 2. Yes, season 2.
2 or 3.
2. So, I think it was good that he got to redeem himself, and fittingly, he got to redeem himself by protecting the city that became his home, whether he liked it or not.
Right.
And I think the books even did a better job of that, because he has like a lot of chapters in the books where he's debating like who is his dad, and he realizes that when it came to like actual affection and fatherly role and everything, Ned Stark was his dad.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he wasn't a Stark, Ned Stark treated him like one. And so the idea of him coming back to protect Ned Stark's son, his only son left,
right,
and defend that home that became his adoptive home, I think that was a very well done and fitting thing. And I even like that they let Bran say to him, you're a good man, Theon, to kind of give him that consolation at the end that he had maybe come full circle.
Right.
Because if he had just died, he still would have died thinking, like, I hope I did enough.
It was the closure.
They gave him closure. So I'll give that. Of course, I'm happy that my man Tormund survived the show. I'm very happy about that. That end final council scene was so fucking weird. When Bran shows up to the council and Tyrion's holding the meeting and stuff.
Yeah.
It was like odd. Like they were trying to go for something comedic at various points. And I was like, this is fucking stupid.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like if you had put the soundtrack of Seinfeld in the background, it would have been a scene from Seinfeld. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just disappointment at this point. That's what it's become.
So, if and when George finishes the other 2 books, will you still read those?
Oh yeah, because at this point, to me, I know George is going to do a better job than fuckwad Dan and Dave did, which, by the way, there was a Google effort I supported for a while where people were posting on Reddit, Dan and Dave's full names and incompetent dickbags. So if you went on Google and typed in incompetent dickbags, because there were so many entries for it, it was actually the top results on Google for a while. And I really appreciate that effort. I really do. But yeah, I think George is going to do a much better job. He was very upset with the direction the show took in the last couple seasons, and the writers, Dan and Dave, would not listen to him for any advice on how to, this is this guy's baby, his brainchild, and yet they thought they could do it better than him, which they couldn't, clearly. I would read those books and then try and forget the show ever happened at this point. Because like a lot of things got cut out of the show for the need of condensing.
Yeah.
That I think made the books really great, were all these little storylines, but they just can't fit all that into a TV show.
Yeah, no.
So, I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and say I'll read the books and be hopeful. So,
fair enough.
I got the evil off my chest.
You did.
For like the 10th time in the last 2 weeks. Because my dad, who's never seen Game of Thrones, asked me like, "Oh, did you finish the last season?" I looked at him and go, "Oh, let me tell you about fucking season 8." And I just go off about it. My dad's just sitting there like, "I don't care." I don't know what you're talking about. I don't care. I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm just sitting there like all angry because I'm like, this fucking show. And my dad's like, this is why I don't get attached to shows. I'm like, fuck you, man.
Okay.
I mean, he really doesn't. He like loses interest in a show after one season. But
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess just to wrap it up, it's like you said, it's sad that it ended this way. I think I'd still recommend it to people, but maybe just stop at 7. Maybe just end at that cliffhanger. Have an Empire Strikes Back moment.
I've actually said that to many people. I'm like, you know what? I had a buddy that was trying to get into Game of Thrones, and he came down to work one day, and I was just venting to the second engineer, who also watches the show, about how fucking bad the show was so far. And he goes, oh man, I feel like I should stop watching. I'm like, no. Keep watching. But then just... I think I had said end with the end of season 6. Mm-hmm. Because Daenerys and her army, they're sailing triumphantly to Westeros. Okay. Like, end it there when you're watching it, because that's where we could have really stopped. I mean, 7 was better than 8, but it was they were just backsliding as far as I'm concerned personally. But obviously this is all subjective.
Right, for sure.
Some people might actually really love season 8.
Yeah.
They're fucking idiots, but they might actually like it.
Right.
So.
Yeah. It is what it is. Unfortunately, there's no going back, but...
Nope. And if there is, I'm going back to the day Dan and Dave were conceived.
Okay.
And we're going to stop that process.
But then we get in the whole time travel thing that we talked about before, where the hasn't and the hads, and...
Dan and Dave's fathers will not have had, not, place, what? That's a Big Bang Theory reference, in case you're wondering what the heck are we talking about.